to go to my guest who's joining us on this broadcast right now, Mr. P.S. Raghavan, who is the chairman of the National Security Advisory Board and has been the former ambassador to Russia. Mr. Raghavan, thank you very much for speaking to Republic TV. Let me first begin by asking you with regards to the trilateral talks that are essentially going to take place. Now, this in the backdrop of the kind of interaction that China and Russia have had so far, and the statements that essentially Russia have made, be it with regards to the 5G rollout, or for that matter, COVID-19 pandemic, or even the kind of sanctions that essentially United States wanted on China, to which Russia, many would have said that have had a very calibrated response. Now, in that backdrop, how do you look at this entire trilateral talks that are going to take place?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Raghavan, please go ahead.
Yeah, because your voice is very faint. I can't really hear too much of what you asked.
Yes, Mr. Raghavan, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear much of what you asked me, but broadly, let me say, this trilateral format to start with is something that's not new. It was established sometime in the early 2000s. And in fact, it was institutionalized in 2005. And the logic of it was, at that time, India had been diversifying its relationship, building its strategic partnerships with other countries, with the US, with Europe, with Japan, and so on. And the RIC format was one which was meant to indicate that we will continue to maintain relations of the kind that they have developed, also with countries like Russia and China, while maintaining while developing our relations with these other countries. So it was kind of both an expression of India's independence of action on the international scene, as well as responding to common interests that Russia and China have with India. Ambassador Parthasarathy mentioned to you on your show just a few minutes ago that we are in the same geographical region. We have certain common interests in Central Asia. We have certain common interests in areas around us. There are certain areas of world policy where we have common interests, in the sense, for example, Iran. We have the same attitude, we have the same views on perspectives on Iran, which differ a little bit from those of the West. So we have common perspectives. We also, I think India being part of the RIC ensures that we sort of, if you like, keep an eye on Russia and China in our region. So all of these go into the RIC format. And of course, if you look at this particular meeting, one of the things that is true about it is that it's a scheduled meeting. We do not want to upset the schedule which was already established. The signal actually is that life also has to go on. You can't be hostage to a situation on the border and not pursue your larger interests in the world, which will be discussed in the RIC format. Now, you asked about 5G, and I only heard just the word 5G. 5G is something that we are working on primarily to develop, to promote indigenous development. And as far as I understand it, Russia also has the same attitude. Russia also wants to try to develop 5G stack indigenously. They don't obviously want to say that they want to shut out Huawei, given the status of their relations with China. But we broadly have the same attitude towards how 5G should develop in a manner that protects our national security, which shuts out, as far as possible, external inputs into our 5G network. Now, I'm afraid I didn't hear a large part of what you said, what you asked, other than this.
Mr. Raghavan, because the Raksha Mantri is also there And when it comes to the expedited defense deals and the deliveries, now how key player do you believe that Russia will be? Because in the current standoff between India and China, Russia has just said that they will monitor the situation, though they haven't taken a stand yet. Do you believe it was the build-up before these talks were to take place between the foreign ministers and the Raksha Mantri's presence there in Moscow?
No, firstly about Russia's stand. We do not need Russia to say anything more than that this issue will be resolved bilaterally between India and China. We don't ask anything more of Russia as far as a public statement goes. Now, as far as our defense cooperation goes, our defense cooperation with Russia has been and is very vibrant. Now, you're talking about these deliveries that Raksha Mantri, you said, is going to expedite. Actually, you see, our program of defense cooperation is something that is ongoing. And the supplies that you were mentioning, I think you were mentioning aircraft. See, all these are already on the agenda. They're already on a schedule. And they proceed according to a timetable. So I'm sure when Raksha Mantri has his meetings with his counterparts in Russia, they will confirm that everything is on course. They will confirm that their commitment to continuing with these deliveries. So I don't see any immediate. I mean, you can't actually take an aircraft off the shelf and deliver it tomorrow. It has to follow a certain schedule, and I'm sure it will follow the schedule that has been already established. And if you need it to be expedited a little bit, I'm sure they will do it. I mean, this is something that Russia has always been forthcoming, and given the extent of our orders with Russia, they will obviously give first priority to any supplies to India. By the way, Russia-China defense cooperation in terms of military supply is nowhere near the level that Russia is supplying to India. That's a fact that I think we kept in mind.
All right, Mr. P.S. Raghavan, sir, thank you very much for sharing that perspective. He's the chairman of the National Security Advisory Board and former ambassador to Russia. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on Republic.
Thank you very much. Thank you.